So you followed minority rights throughout a long career as teacher, researcher, UN special rapporteur. What have been some of the biggest paradigm shifts?
Well, one of the biggest was that following the Second World War, initially minorities were not recognized at all in the United Nations human rights documents. It only started in the 1960s and 70s. There were a few more new treaties, such as the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, would actually recognize that minorities, ethnic, religious, or linguistic minorities, had the right to use their own language, practice their own religion, or enjoy their own culture together. So there was a shift from zero, basically after the end of the Second World War and the first human rights documents, to gradually increasing from about the late 1960s to recognizing minorities had human rights.
We've been talking a lot today about linguistic rights and linguistic minority groups. What are the benefits of defining deaf persons as a linguistic minority?
Yeah, one of the main benefits is that when you refer to users of sign languages as a linguistic minority, it means, on the one hand, their language is recognized as a real language, natural language, and secondly, that there may be a community dimension. It's not only individuals who use sign languages, but they are part of a community, a group, a minority group. So I think that's a significant element that adds to the right of users of sign languages, not only as individuals using a kind of communication tool, but also having a culture which they share with other members of their group.
We often speak of like the deaf community. Does the UN view deaf people as a global minority, or is just an assortment of different national linguistic minorities?
The short answer is that we are dealing with a number of different sign languages. Therefore, you have a number of different linguistic minorities, users of different sign languages, and each belongs to a separate community. That would be the simple answer to that question.
And the longer answer?
Longer answer is that even at the United Nations, recognizing users of sign languages as members of linguistic minorities is a new phenomenon. It really has only been in the last 10 years that we've been going that direction. So what it means in terms of other rights, or what does it mean to have rights as a linguistic minority in the specific case of users of sign languages, will be something that we'll have to develop a little bit further. My mandate, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Minority Issues, we've officially recognized this, but it's going to have to go further with other mechanisms at the United Nations to have a much more better understanding of what are these human rights for users of sign languages and what it may mean in practice when you apply the international human rights treaties.
The last few years have seen huge political upheavals, even here in the European Western world. Will these changes impact minority rights going on?
Yes, I think in a global way we have to be honest. In some countries there's a rejection of the universality of human rights. Some countries are going backwards, quite frankly. We've seen it in the United States where the previous president and the new president, incoming president, has basically said that the United States would remove itself from international human rights treaties and obligations. So I think in the case of the users of sign languages, we have to recognize that the commitment of many governments, many national governments, towards human rights is weaker today. So it's going to be a challenge to have these governments and even international organizations better recognize and try to make them protect better, implement better those rights in a context where there's almost hostility, quite frankly, to human rights in general.